All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Elevated Marketing Dad podcast, where we simplify complicated digital marketing topics to make your business grow. I think today's topic is pretty complicated. We're going to talk about biases. Certainly, we're going to tie it into marketing and why that happens and what to do about it. But I think we can all agree that as a natural thing, many of us have biases.
Yeah.
All right. I've got Brenna with me, so say hello.
Hello.
Per usual, right? We love to hang out.
Yes, we
Yes.
do.
I feel like my brain has been all over the place this past week. Like I'm just like, it's great, like idea, but I'm like, I need to execute. I need
Yeah,
to
that.
can't just have ideas. So, given that if you had 25 hours in a given day, what would you do with that extra hour?
That is a great question. I think because like in my routine it's like kind of go, 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 I think I would actually give myself an hour back to kind of relax and debrief and just kind of regain my composure and
Yeah.
just give myself some time to, I don't know, I guess.
Yeah. I can relate to that. Like, I would like to call it like unstructured time,
Hmm.
but like given my nature, I can't like make it somewhat structured. And I would do like more learning. Like, I love to learn things and just having the freedom to like go down rabbit holes and not be pressured by the fact that I only have so much time for this. It's
Hmm.
one of my favorite things to do in the morning. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, but like from 4 to 6, it's like I can't schedule myself anything that I have to do during that time. That's my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And although I'm not always good at that, it's certainly what I do. So, okay, so let's talk about biases in marketing. So, off the top, Brenna, what do you think about when it comes to biases in marketing?
Well, we all have our opinions. Um, we'll,
You
we'll
have an
start there. But I think sometimes in marketing, sometimes the bias may really be in a brand's favor, or on the contrary, it could be maybe going against them. But where marketing can come into play is how we can maybe overcome some bias that's happening, or maybe steer a bias in the right direction.
Yeah. I think marketers come up with biases. I
Mhm.
think, brand owners, like, the owner of the company or people who have worked at a company, they have biases that kind of come through on their marketing of, what works and doesn't work. And I just want to say that it's completely natural. We all come from different environments, and so we create biases based on experiences that we've had.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, as marketers, maybe it's easy to, I mean, that's what bias is, right? You don't really see the other side. And so it's
Yeah.
hard to speak and come from a place where maybe not everyone thinks the same as you. And so I think acknowledging that bias, though, too, like you need to acknowledge that, okay, maybe you do have some marketing bias and you need to
Yeah.
see the other side.
Well, it's hard because in order to avoid biases, you have to have a very open mind
Mhm.
and be open to that your way might not be the only way. And I think a lot of people let their ego get involved and, they're not willing to kind of step back and be like, huh, that's a different way to look at it.
Mhm. For sure. I don't want that to be confused with type A. Because I'm like kind of thinking back to myself, I have a hard time letting go. Control, is that? No.
No, I
But
don't think it's a
yeah.
control thing. I think it's a willingness to listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there's several different types of biases that could happen in your marketing, and it could really like affect a lot of different things. I'm gonna first though say we're talking about people here a lot, and AI and machine learning and all of that, there is littered with biases
Mhm.
because it's building its data and its information off of what we have already put out there. And so before we even talk like about types of biases, there's people that do it and there's machines that are doing it.
That's such a good point.
Yeah, and it affects our decision making. It makes outcomes come out differently. So, all right, let's kind of go through this list. So there's confirmation bias. Um, you know, when you do that, I don't know why I go down this road, but I watch too many crime shows, and I think about like a crime scene where you think this to be true and that's the suspect, and so you only look at things that are going to confirm what you already believe or your hypothesis, and you tend to like ignore anything that contradicts it because you're like, well, this is right.
Yeah, and that tunnel vision, it can lead you down a bad path sometimes. And
Yep, yep. What other ones do we have?
yeah, there's cultural bias. And I like to think of this too as like kind of in the sense of like morals and company values as well.
Yeah,
You might really believe in something that doesn't resonate a lot with your audience or maybe who you think your audience is. And so when you try to pull in messaging that reflects that cultural bias, it's not always going to land.
I love what you just said there because you're taking it from a who is your audience, and your audience might be from a different culture than what you're from. And so, yeah, there's different words. Like, let's say you have a global product and you're advertising to somebody over in Asia versus, over in the United States. Like, there's different cultural bias on how you go to market.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. This one's my favorite. It's very common, is generational bias. And, I think we do this quite common where we say, well, all millennials are this way or all Gen Z are this way. And I think that affects our marketing because we're making assumptions that everybody is the same because they came from a certain generation. And I am like so against this
Hmm.
because I want to be treated as an individual. It's such a touchy subject for me.
Yeah, it definitely, and it really does come into play, especially in marketing, because again, it's the way we're talking to people.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean,
We're not saying don't target your audience by
yeah,
generations,
yeah,
but we're saying like you might have a bias that a certain generation might want your product versus another generation based on your own experiences. And so you're making assumptions that might not be true.
yep, absolutely. Another one, there's sampling bias. And so I look at this as maybe you're testing some different groups, but your groups are pretty small. And so the data that you're gathering from these groups, it's not significant enough to be telling of exactly who you're actually trying to target or talk to. And so, but you don't really see that bigger picture. And so you're pulling this data and this feedback, and it's pretty niche.
Well, I can certainly relate to this when it comes to optimizing, certain types of marketing. And, sometimes we get this feeling that it's on the internet and it's been 2 days. Are we making a change? And I'm in my like data mine. I'm like, it hasn't been long enough. We don't have enough data to make a good decision. And we're making decisions too quickly and we're not giving it enough time. And so that sampling bias really comes in.
For sure.
Yeah. So anchoring bias is another one. That is when you become overly reliant on the first thing that or piece of information that you get. This is so crucial when it comes to like onboarding with clients. This is also important when it comes to brainstorming. When you're brainstorming for a new marketing idea, the first thing that comes out of your mouth is it might not be the best idea, but it was your first, so you kind of like anchor to it. I see the same thing with using AI tools. We tend to anchor to the first thing that comes out, and we make decisions. This is no good, or this is crap, and it's like, well, that's the first thing it came up with. That doesn't mean you can't go back and like teach it to, oh, well, don't say it this way, or have you considered this? Like, it's avoiding that, like, a first thing that comes to mind is the best.
And I think with this, you can help yourself with like maybe a second set of eyes, because it's I feel like I can be like, okay, I've thought of this and everything I come up with is gonna be a subcategory of this. And so a second set of eyes is, always very helpful.
Yeah. What's the last one?
Yeah. So there's stereotyping. I think we're all familiar with, generalized assumptions about different groups and people. But, where marketing comes into play, it's you may think you know who you're talking to, but you really haven't done your homework. And so you really do need to look into these groups that maybe you have these assumptions about before you try speaking with them and, talk about your product.
I think of the 60 plus. I know some 60 plus that are terrified of computers, but I also know some 60 plus that are like tech, like, evangelists.
Yeah.
And so there's stereotyping there that because of a bias that older people that are not good with computers, and you assume all older people are not good with computers.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I know we have been talking about this topic already for quite a bit, and I think there's like a lot more things to discuss, but we've certainly created a blog post on it. There are reasons why you create biases, and you want to trust your instincts versus following trends, and there's definitely some strategies as a marketing team to avoid biases. Any last minute thoughts before I get everybody to go over to the blog post?
I think just being open to hearing other people out, especially in a team setting, because you can really bounce some great ideas off of each other if you're open to hearing other opinions.
I just want to say, bring it out to life. Like, be open to hearing what somebody else has to say, and be open to changing your mind. I think a lot of times people have a hard time with that. Or I'm going to say, lastly, be accepting that somebody has learned new information and now they have a different opinion. And that's okay. They had a different opinion before. You don't need to judge what opinion they had before. They've gotten new information and now they have changed. So just be open-minded.
Very well said.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for now for this Elevated Marketing Dad podcast. Thank you for listening. Certainly, you can join our newsletter and get all of these podcasts and blog posts in your email box. either head over to my profile on Jennifer Denny LinkedIn, or you can go to our website and catch it there. And then, of course, we are on all the socials. All right, take care.